You are clear to launch.
Welcome to the Stanton News Network, your first stop in Star Citizen information. Hang tight as we keep you up to date on the latest developments in the UEE. Bringing you the guests and info you crave, along with the opinion and outlook you need.
Takeoff complete.
What is up, guys? I am joined here today by Captain Crush and Spectre, both org mates and friends of mine in game. And this is the first episode of our new podcast, Stanton News Network. What is going on, guys? How are you doing today?
Yo, what's up?
Doing pretty well. Excited about the first podcast.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Hopefully we do a lot more of these. We're gonna see what everyone thinks about it. Maybe they just hate it. Maybe they like it. We'll find out soon. Coming to you on a streaming platform near you. But I think the main thing that we should probably get straight into is 2 days from today, maybe a day from the day this is actually posted online for everybody to take a look at. We have CitizenCon coming up. What are you guys thinking about CitizenCon? What are your thoughts?
Pretty pumped myself, ready to see what all they're gonna be showing off. Maybe they'll have some more updates on the Banu. I'm ever hopeful. But
Looking forward towards the Corsair personally and all the information regarding the new ships coming out.
Yeah, I know we do have a specific section that is ship talks. I believe that's the last panel of CitizenCon. But I imagine we'll definitely see an update or at least some kind of demo of the Bandy Merchantman. And I don't know, I have a feeling that we're gonna see something about jumping, something about jumping to Pyro, or what that's gonna look like, what the gate's gonna look like. I have a weird feeling that we'll see something to do with that. Maybe not necessarily in that panel, but during CitizenCon itself.
Well, they showed it off in the past. I don't know if you've seen the kind of the wormhole loop that they used to have. So
Yep.
I'm sure it wouldn't drift too far off of the idea of having to navigate through stargates, basically.
Well, I know there's going to be there's small holes, medium holes, and large ones. I guess some ships will be able to go through. Some won't. But I think if it's just a small demo from, I believe it was CitizenCon 3 years ago. I think I've seen that.
And
yeah, I've seen some of the old pictures from it. Kind of reminded me of smaller versions of the wormhole from Expanse. I don't know if y'all ever watched that.
Right.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I feel like they
absolutely.
share a lot of ideas, but they definitely it's not going to be how you have QT, where your QT drive on your ship, you can QT from any point in the star system. You're going to have to probably navigate to an actual gate somewhere physically located in the system to go to another specific system. So there'll be a gate between Pyro and Stanton, and I feel like that gate wouldn't just take you to every star system that you can go to. You'd have to navigate through the system,
through each one. I mean, have you guys looked at the ARC map that's online?
You talking about the star map for all the systems?
It's called ARC map.
Yeah,
I
I've
think
seen
it's
them.
called, but it's the new updated version 2. I don't know when that's coming in, but A, that thing's sexy. B, if you look at it, it looks like a lot of them. You jump into one system, and then once you jump there, the other points or the other gates to other systems are on the other side of that system. So you'll fly, you'll drop out near Microtech, for instance, but then you have to pick back up and warp over near ArcCorp, and that's where the other gate is to continue on your jump.
I'm excited because it's going to be it's only one system that they're adding, Pyro, but that's symbolically that's the tech that we're going to use to do these massive navigations through the entire Star Citizen universe. I think that's going to be really cool. Definitely looking forward to that.
I guess my only thought on it is, will anybody be camping these positions?
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure you've played. If you're an Eve player, that's definitely going to be a thing. I think we're going to see. Oh yeah, there's going to be swarms of mantises, or maybe there's going to be something a little bit heavier. Watching certain gates if they know it's a heavily contested gate. But I think that's going to be a major strategy point for PvP, especially org versus org PvP. It's things exactly like that. Contesting a gate or locking down a gate after your team jumps through it. So then that whoever's pursuing you has at least a roadblock in the way, if not a stopping force.
Well, that and so they've also talked about UEE maintained systems and non-UEE maintained systems. So Star Citizen or Stanton is a UEE maintained system, where you have laws and you have security forces and a bunch of like AI doing things to kind of maintain order, where Pyro isn't a UE maintained system. So like Pyro won't have any defenses whatsoever. So like people will be able to camp the Pyro gate on the Pyro side, no problem. Whereas I'm sure the Stanton side of the gate will have a lot of security.
I'm telling
Yeah.
you, day one, there is going to be, you can call them PvPers, you can call them griefers. I'm sure we're going to talk about that somewhere in this episode. But, to I'm sure everyone here, it's PvP, but you'll have PvPers literally sitting there at that gate. Day one, it is in game. I can guarantee you. Guarantee you.
I'm sure it'll be like when they release those gates, like they're not going to just have the gate there with no kind of like security, especially on the standing side. You're going to have like station defenses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I hope they kind of do it.
More lockdown.
I hope they do it just like Eve, where like if let's say you're in the standing side, if you start attacking someone, the cops show up right away, or there's cops just always sitting outside of the gate. Whereas once you jump to that Pyro side, like whatever happens there, like that's your problem for jumping to the gate.
Yeah, some of the things I've seen them say in the past, they plan on making Stant like a pretty protected zone, not kind of like how it is now, just because it'll be more like for if you're doing cargo hauling and all the safe stuff will be done in Stanton, and then when you want more risk reward, you'll go to the other systems, not like Stanton.
And then something not talked about for a while is I feel like Quanta. So that with systems like Stanton, where it's supposed to be a heavy trade or a heavy like commerce, you're gonna have all types of security forces. So like when there's pirates in like a Stanton type of system, you're gonna have all these Quanta that are specifically dedicated to making like the area a lot more safer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that they'll even follow like not just player but also NPC. Like, I know I'm sure we've all seen that Tony Z talk where he goes through and shows like the theoretical or like a simulated action inside of a system, and all of a sudden you see like more pirates show up, and so then you see more cops show up, and then you see more trade show up because there's more cops. Then the traders disappear when there's more crime. So yeah, when Quanta comes online, that's gonna be absolutely huge. I think that we're probably gonna see a little bit more about that when they go through. Like if you look at, I think it's the second panel is the new mission, like archetypes that have combat delivery, and it also has like I think they said mindful like storytelling or something like that in the description of it. But it's by like one of the lead like systems like designers, one of the lead like designers overall. I think that that's going to be a panel that we get a little bit deeper of a dive, if you would, into like some of the increases in like AI and storytelling that we're seeing. I saw the AI Star Citizen piece last week. I think that Pyro, we're going to see a lot of improvements that we haven't even maybe we don't even know that they're being worked on. I think a lot of it we do know about, but I think a lot of the quality of life stuff that we've seen over the last year that has popped up, some of the most valuable stuff to the community has been stuff that we didn't even know was coming. They just announced it with a patch.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like because we had bounty hunting, and then we had bounty hunting like an update pushing like the reputation system and stuff like that. So we had the last few patches have been a lot of like combat related stuff. So it seems like now they're trying to push towards maybe with this new investigation style missions like exploration, trying to visit different locations and like actually explore. So yeah, I feel like this is it's more towards exploration than anything else. Like, yeah, you're probably investigating something that happened, but really it's to get you as a player, at least I feel, to a location to kind of take in like the scenery of like the new Pyro like planets. You know what I mean? And I think it's a good way that they do it with Pyro, because people are going to be going into Pyro and they're going to be like, oh, what's this? Oh, what's that? Like, oh, this place is cool. Oh, what's this cave? And now they're just kind of attaching missions to kind of give players something to do while they're in there. Like, oh, I was gonna go in this cave and look around, but now I have to go look for a dead body in this cave,
Yeah, I think that for a long time, that's kind of been like at least in my opinion, I'm not a big delivery mission guy, but I feel like delivery missions, like they don't feel like they're anything other than like a reason to go explore, because the money like isn't that good. So I feel like really like the main thing you're doing, that's why I tell every new player that joins like like any kind of new player server, like on Discord or anything, if they're asking for help, one of the first things I tell them is like, okay, if you want to get good at just flying around and comfortable, go do delivery missions. It involves a lot of taking off, landing, maybe a little bit of combat from an NPC, walking around, getting back in your ship. But like, it's a great way to orient yourself into the game. Where I feel
Agreed.
like this investigation thing sounds to me like the next tier of that. You know what I'm saying? Like now, here's a little bit like maybe there's a little bit of danger when you go in that cave, or maybe there's some elements that you have to look for, like a environmental aspect or like trigger that you have to look for. But once you get that thing, like Siege of Orison comes to mind. Like once you get the codes off the tablet, now you can open up the warehouse and get the evidence that you need. To move to the next platform. I
Yep.
think that's going to be like the next level of that kind of saying, like, hey, here's this beautiful environment. Here's some EXP and some money to keep you interested while you explore it. But I completely agree with you, Spectre. I think that is going to be like a huge exploration vehicle.
And just so you know, like you delivery missions, they're not paying very well to start, but you do the reputation system for the delivery like category, you could be making like 80K. So as a new player, like definitely delivery missions is if you're trying to learn how to fly, you're trying to explore the current universe that we have. If you do those and you gather up that reputation, you become familiar with the systems that are in the game. You can be making up to like 80K with the delivery missions, and you can stack those missions on top of each other. And then those same processes will help you, or those same mechanics will help you in like guiding the bounty hunting reputation and the what are the new ones that just came out? Assist a ship in the middle of nowhere type. There's
Like the combat assistance.
combat assistance. There you go. Yeah, like those kind of missions. They all have their own reputation system, but they're all functionally like the same system. They're just in different paths. So like this investigation mission or missions that are coming out, I'm sure will follow the same suit.
Yeah,
Bring you to
they'll
like
be pretty
harder
good.
areas.
I
Like
think
maybe
those.
no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think that'd be especially good for the newer players, just getting their feet wet. Because even when I started out, I've been playing for a while, but once they started adding things into the game, the delivery missions is where I started, and I don't even like it, just because it taught me how to land, taught me how to fly, like take off, do all the stuff. Obviously crashed a few times, but now adding in more content where new people can join in and get their feet wet and something else besides delivery, I think is good.
I think honestly, like it's something that needs to be addressed, and hopefully we see it maybe like in the 4.0 release. I think that's going to be a big point of marketing for CIG. But
Yeah,
we need to address the fact that there's just no damn tutorial, and like it's not a game that you can like you can jump in and like kind of find your way around. I know that's the immersion level that they want is like for a new player to walk around and look
just
at the
experience it.
signs and like experience it, but in that world, you also wouldn't rubber band back onto your fucking like sleeping mattress like 5 times as you're getting up. So like while that's the case, we need to have some kind of a tutorial, even if it's like a recorded thing that they go through on the website, like where it's like a guided thing. I honestly, and I sincerely mean it, even them pointing on the new player page to like, hey, here is some community developed stuff. Like Burks does an amazing tutorial. Morphologist has done an amazing tutorial. Every big streamer, I feel like YouTube personality has done a getting started video. Even them just pointing users to that on the RSI site, I think was a huge improvement over like the guide program. I was one of the first guides, and I've done a ton of sessions. I like earned like a few like rewards even for it, like from community events and stuff. Not talking about like the skins that everybody got, but like actual stuff like involvement. And actually it's not a good solution. I can't contact those people in the game. It's only on Spectrum. If you are actually playing the game, the perfect time to be teaching a new player, you don't even know that you have a session like requested because you're in the middle of a match, or you're in the
Yeah.
middle of like the game. You don't hear it.
There are
Yeah.
times where I looked at my guide system panel and I'm like, crap, I missed like 4 requests.
Yeah, the last
Yeah.
free fly, I was logged off my computer. Like I was at work, and I guess I just happened to be logged into my RSI account, like on the computer. And I noticed that I had like 45 like missed requests. So like people have just been sitting there requesting it for like a day. And I'm not even on that computer. I wasn't even logged into that computer. And yeah, just like little stuff like that. I just feel like for a new player, it's like a daunting experience as is. The last thing that we need to do is make it harder.
But
Yeah.
in terms of getting started in Star Citizen, especially for a new player, the content is out there. It's just you do have to look for it, and that's why like in our community Discord, like our guide section has like 4 videos. You watch these 4 videos, you'll be able to play the game. And there are, like you said, there are a lot of great getting started videos out there where they're like, you do systematically, you do like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. By the time you reach step 5, you'll have your foot in the game. And then you can go explore and do things that are more geared towards you. But as long as you do these like first 5 steps, like, get your ship, maybe get a gun or get some specific equipment, go and do these kind of missions first. Like granted, like he said, or like Crush said, he didn't like doing delivery missions, but he did those delivery missions first, and that got him enough money to do what you wanted to do. Like, unfortunately, like that's the way it is, and you gotta look for that information. It exists out there. You just have to go look for it.
And I think that is part of it. I think a big part of the new player experience. I don't know if this happened for you guys, but for me, like I remember my first day, a dude named a guy who runs a org called Trinity Divided. His name's Shadow Knight. Somebody I remember Spectre. You and a group of our org members actually ended up blowing up and then capturing their entire org inside of Jumptown. But he was a good friend up until that day. And he was the one who like coached me the first time I came to the game, right? And I had like an Avenger tight end during a free fly, and I'm like, holy shit, this game is lit. Like loving it, loving like how immersive it is. No idea what I'm doing. Next thing you know, I'm inside of a Carrack. We're doing like, PvE, like bounty hunter missions, blowing stuff up. I'm on a turret. Like stuff's going like, good. Then some fights are going bad. But it was like this crazy like onboarding experience that I didn't even realize that like really these guys were just taking me around to stuff that they've done hundreds of times, but to me it was like this immersive new thing. I think a lot of people have come into the game in some way like that, where a player like that's one thing that's great about this community is that a lot of people will take you under that wing and say, hey, let's go run missions together. You can be a gunner for me, or you can come be an assistant like pilot, or you can come work for me and operate one of the mining turrets in my mole. I feel like a community like that, at least for me and my gaming experience, hasn't really existed like that since like Star Wars Galaxies or like the EverQuest days.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. For me, it's like kind of reminds me 2004 when I started playing World of Warcraft. Is even though no relation, but the community's been really helpful. And so for all new people, like they should definitely once you get in the game, if you haven't looked at any videos or anything else, at least just hit up the chat because people will more than likely there will be someone in there that you can tag along with. They'll teach you stuff. Like it's a very helpful community, and that's something I've noticed as well. It's been pretty nice. Don't get me wrong. There's people out there that will grief you and do other things that might be annoying, but there's a lot of people that will help new players, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. Like,
Absolutely.
so when I started out with Star Citizen, I had bought my account back in 2014, and obviously we didn't get to play it for a while. There wasn't a lot going on, so it was very easy for me to get into the game because when you got into the game, it was like, here's Port Olisar, and here's the gas giant, and that was it. That was all you had. And they started adding things, and as an early player, I got to follow along and understand the systems as they were being developed. So I really didn't get too lost. But that goes into like the kind of players that we have now. It's like some of these guys have been here since 2014, and they'll come in, they'll play a month, they'll get caught up with all the mechanics and things going on. They might not play all year round, but my point is that they're caught up. So when there's a new player that comes in, you have 1,000 experienced players, and they're like, yes, I can answer that question because I know the answer to that question. Or, oh, I'm having this bug. Well, here's how you avoid getting that bug. And a lot of those players are just like that because they're following the game so closely. It's like there's not very many other games where the players are following the game as close as they are following Star Citizen, even if they don't play regularly. So you'll
Yeah,
get a lot of those players that are just very, very informative, and they're down to help you out because it's really only a chat away.
Absolutely.
yeah. I feel like this is almost for a lot of people. It's more of a hobby, and not just like
Oh
gaming
yeah.
being a hobby. It's like Star Citizen itself is a hobby.
Well, it's priced like a hobby.
Yeah, that is true too. It is priced like a hobby.
I have at least like a used Honda Civic worth of ships.
Yeah.
So other than I know that we said a little bit about like the new mission types and stuff like that. I think one of the big things I'm looking forward to seeing in CitizenCon, I guess like one of my predictions is that, when we get to that planetary pyro, I think it's like the opening, segment. It's I think gonna be like a deep tour. It says in-engine tour of many of the planets and moons of the upcoming pyro system. I think we're gonna get a much deeper dive. Like when we saw that outpost, I believe that was last CitizenCon. Like we saw that outpost where they showed 4 different ways to go at the mission.
Yep.
I hope we're seeing something like that, except for like a much larger showcase. I think a lot of these videos are going to be, or a lot of these panels rather, are going to be, like 2 hour long inside Star Citizens more so than,
You also got to make sure you know what that
videos.
means in
Yeah.
engine.
I have a feeling they're going to do a lot with salvage.
You think so?
Yeah, I have. Just from what I've seen them talking about, like what they're like, I guess giving hints of us or whatever. It looks like a lot. Like they'll be working on the multi-tool, for example. I'm excited to see how it's all going to be working with the new salvage attachment. That'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that'll be. I mean, the FPS repair thing for my style of gameplay, mostly piracy, it's gonna be huge.
Yeah.
Personally, I like when it comes to salvage the fact, like you said, repairing your ship and going back to the Expanse. You know how they would get into like a battle or a space battle, and they would have to wear spacesuits inside the spaceship because
Yep.
their ship would get punctured
Yeah, and so
and
they
there'd be
lose all
holes.
oxygen.
And then after the fight, they would have to go. They had their tech guy go and freaking putting up armor, like welding armor panels to the freaking holes that were made in the side of the ship, so that they can take off their space. Like that kind of stuff is going to be really cool.
And I think it'd also be cool, depending how they do it, for immobilizing ships during combat too, or some sort of pirating or things like that. I
Yeah, I
don't know
think that
what all.
they are going like a good direction with some of that stuff. Like when they came up with the Legionnaire, like the boarding ship,
Mhm.
I think they're starting to move that direction. When they come up with the relays and the power management, which that's a whole panel as well. I believe that's one of the second to last panel is them talking about the resource management system. I think that's gonna be where you start seeing that player that's like, "Yo, I don't wanna be a pilot. I don't wanna be a gunner. I'm more of like that." It's like the demolition specialist kinda character in like a battlefield team, It's like that
Yeah.
guy that, like, just wants to throw down claymores and, like, sit there and wait for the tank to come by kind of a thing.
That's going to be a
I
very complicated profession.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be insanely hard, but the people that do it, just like the shotgun RPG guy in Battlefield or whatever, like if you are good at that role, it's almost unstoppable. I think that like that mechanic slash like firefighter, role of dealing with ship damage and stuff, I think will become the number one sought skill set for like the larger PvP meta. Like when you start looking at like a Polaris, it's like, okay, well, how many engineers do you have on that crew? Like,
Yeah.
like that's cool that you have gunners, but that could be like an NPC can gun. Like how many player engineer like focus guys do you
That
have?
guy's gonna have his hands full. He's gonna be running around, like, especially like a carrot. You're gonna be freaking running up ladders and switching relays out, and then patching a hole in the hull over here and putting out a fire over there. You're just gonna be full of
Yeah,
shit to do.
depending how they do everything in the future, because a profession that I would like to see, I'm not even sure if it'll be to the full length that I would like, but I would like to see some sort of, and they could be, mercenaries and everything too. They can fit in multiple roles, but like a saboteur type role. I think that would be
Well,
really cool.
I think we're naturally gonna get that. I think we're gonna have a lot of spies and that kind of stuff. Like if you look at Eve, like everything about that game
Hmm.
is somebody's a spy. I think we're gonna see that same kind of a thing, happen in Star Citizen. There's gonna be people that join mining orgs just to figure out where they're mining so they can go and rob that organization. And there's gonna be bounty hunters and good guy focused characters that try to infiltrate piracy orgs to try to take them down. I
Yep.
think once we see like a lot of that like homesteading stuff, like a lot of the player owned like buildings, and we're worried about like farming mats and stuff like that within the verse. I think that's when you're gonna start seeing a lot of that more advanced like I don't want to say psychological warfare, but like, that kind of like deeper like spy level gameplay.
Yeah, and I'm
Um,
I'm curious what weaponry they'll, like some of those, like if you are a small group or one or two people, and you're kind of taking on that role of being a saboteur, like what kind of weaponry could they also maybe use in the future that's not even here now? So that way, maybe they need to cripple their supplies somehow or whatever else. They could sneak on, do their thing. Because I am curious about that. I think that would be really cool to see some of that improved once the game grows. Of course, I don't know if it's needed yet.
Well, I think one of the big things that I'm really excited to see is like when the corporations and like caverns and all that stuff collide. Like they're talking about like the underground facilities and new gameplay possibilities that are coming with the caves.
Yep.
I'm hoping like with that same time frame, like they could do like an underground jump town. If that is like an underground jump town, then I guess whatever. I guess I get it. It might be a fun variant. Hopefully, it doesn't become the
Don't
only
worry
jump
about the
town.
A2 above as much.
Yeah, if that's really like the reason they're coming out with it, then that's gonna be frustrating. But I'm sure people will figure out a new way to troll, non PvP players that don't know how to deal with something. But I think that when the underground thing happens, I'm hoping that we see a lot of like NPC work in the next year. It seems like they've been doing a lot already. Like they like just having like NPCs, able to fly down to, a station that's being engaged with, or like, let's say you're at like a security outpost and you're killing all the NPCs. The fact that now there can be two cutlasses that show up full of backup support on
Yeah, coming
top of
down
the
the
race
elevator
car.
after you.
Yeah, I think that, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we need to see more quality of life and like AI improvements and NPC
Yeah, I agree.
improvements
I
in
I
the
think
next year.
if they
Hopefully, we see a lot
focused,
of that.
yeah, I think if they focused a lot on the AI to try and get that up, maybe even for like 4.0 or something, that would be really, really nice. Just because I think it would help with more people getting to play too.
Mhm.
There's a lot of people that don't always have a full ship. They want to fly their biggest ship, then they could crew it with AI. The fighting against the AI would be nice too if it was more proper. 'Cause it's a little glitchy right now.
Well, they're gonna have to because, like, for instance, that's the incident with you and me in that A2 last night or yesterday. Like, that wouldn't
Yeah.
happen in the future because, like, you're gonna need for especially like ships like an A2 or the size of an A2, you're gonna need whole crews to be able to man or like maintain that ship in flight. Like, if
Yeah,
you disable an A2, the pilot's not gonna get up from flying the ship to go
to
fix
go
whatever
work
is
on it. Yep.
disabling the ship. Yeah.
Yeah, there's gonna be
So
somebody for that.
And I do love the A2.
yeah, you're not
But
gonna be able to solo these big ships by yourself. You're gonna either have
yeah.
to hire a crew, hire AI. You gotta do something, but you're not gonna be able to fly them by yourself.
So, what do you guys think that master mode thing is all about? Do you guys see the need for multiple speeds? Apparently, there's like a
Yeah,
mission made for Squadron 42. I have no idea what that's about.
I was looking at that a little bit too, kind of curious. I guess we will find out more, but I'm really curious to see what they're doing with all that.
Yeah, I think I think a lot of CitizenCon is just going to be based around like the pyro system, which I think is overdue. I think that last year we probably should have seen a lot of the panels that we're seeing this year. But I
Yep.
am excited to see like some of the stuff in the talking ship pipeline, including the supposed SRV variant of the Gray Cat, which what I'm seeing, what I'm calling is that it's going to be we're going to get a Gray Cat PTV like LTI token, like they were talking about for the ship showdown, just because they knew everybody was going to vote for it. I don't know if everyone's going to get a skin. I feel like every player that subbed is a 400 million mile mark, or the 500 million mile mark for that matter. Now that we're there, maybe we get like a PTV, and then the skin comes with the ship showdown, thing.
Yeah.
And then now you're looking at like a $15 to $25 CCU to the SRV, or it's like a $10 CCU from the hover quad. So they still make that money, or you buy a brand new one LTI for like $40, or I think that they will undercut the Cyclone just for the new sales during CitizenCon, but who knows what they'll do.
Yeah, who knows? Because they could always easily put a sell on to undercut it. Get some more sales in. They've done it before.
I think last year the only variant of like the ships they wanted to show us, like they showed us all the outlines, and the only one that we didn't actually end up getting variant wise was the bomber category. I know that they said there's going to be a new twist on how we vote or how we think about what comes out over the next year. So it's going to be interesting to see what that is.
Yeah.
What kind of vehicles would you guys want to see over the next, you know, especially like with Pyro coming out? Like, what kind of vehicles do you guys think?
Well, there's two I would like to see, but one of them they've already started walking back on on the timeline for it. And the first one's obviously Banu Merchant Man, but I'd really like to see some stuff on the I don't know if anybody's really mentioned it, but the Retaliator, because I think it could be a pretty cool concept with the ideas they had, but I know they've pushed back their timeline for it again.
I think the Odyssey would be a great pirate ship.
Pirate ship or pyro?
For pyro, no pyro like exploration ship,
Okay.
because it can make its own fuel. You know,
Yeah.
when it's got the drones ready, like it could,
Yep.
the Odyssey has a lot of functionality not in the game, but it'll be so amazing for exploring a system that's, especially one that doesn't, that's dangerous. You can't just go to like a space station and refuel and get the supplies you need. You got to take that stuff with you. I think like the Odyssey would be a good ship for that.
The Odyssey will be an awesome explorer for sure.
Yeah, I think the fact that it can do that is going to be a huge key to it getting like. I own like a Carrack CCU to the Odyssey. I haven't put it on there yet because I don't know how I'm going to feel about that, like when the time comes. But I completely agree. I think that the fact that it can make its own fuel without having to stop into dangerous places is going to be invaluable down the road. Already, we're seeing that. You know, just when they like brought out the Starfare. You started seeing like some gas tanks go a lot shorter. Like now, you know, you have a VK0, quantum drive. You're not warping from like Microtech to Crusader, you know.
Yep.
You would so like there's no way that ship, even with the best drive, is gonna make it from Stanton to Pyro.
Yeah, you're gonna be seeing a lot of logistic ships and fleets. Like
And
you're gonna have a whole military fleet. You know, you're gonna have your hammerheads and your Idrises and stuff, but you're also gonna have your Starfares because you got to be able to manage the supplies that you got to manage without having to put yourself in harm's way.
or you just get to steal that fleet, it's whatever. You figure
Just
it
go steal
out.
the fleet.
Yeah, just steal the fleet.
You just shoot yourself out in the space out of your ship and just hope you align it right.
So I think the number one thing I really want to see in the next year, like ship wise, and I hope that they talk about this during the talking ship segment, is I really want to see like more utility ships. Like I think that, at least in my opinion, like I have a lot of the ships that I would want to buy, like PvP wise. That's my main focus on gameplay. But I feel like a lot of the ships that they talk about are focused around combat. And I don't even necessarily know if we need a lot more ships to be talked about over the next like year, or like brought up like new concept ships brought up, but some straight to flyable stuff that would impact, the guys who, like we were just talking about, like want to be that engineer player, want to be that like repair character, or like a team
Med
support
guy.
role. Yeah, like I think like I don't know if you guys saw the medical version of the Ursa. Do you guys see that concept? It was like a fan
No, I
made
didn't.
concept on Reddit. Oh man, dude, it looks like it made me want to buy Ursa. Like that's how cool. That's how cool it looked, and it was just
Yeah,
like,
there was some medical versions of a bunch of things. I saw one of the Caterpillar too, and that was really fucking cool. Honestly, like I really really liked it.
yeah, I
we
think
still got ships that are, like the Crucible, like the ability, like, and that's where a lot of people who are in these dangerous like areas that don't want to do combat, they're going to be able to make money because like you're going through Pyro and your Crucible, and there's a disabled fleet somewhere and they need tons of repair. Well, you just made your 200K go and repair this fleet.
Yep.
yeah. So I think there's gonna be a lot of gray space, like in-game trading going on. When we see Pyro, there's gonna be people who need gas. There's gonna be people who need repair. I mean, hopefully the Vulcan's not far behind. I think we're gonna see the Vulcan before the Crucible. But that being said, like we had the Reclaimer first, and then now the Vulture's coming out. Now all of a sudden there's like the Reclaimer got salvaged in the same patch cycle. So like who knows? Like we might see the Vulcan come out at the same time. But I think that when Pyro comes out, like you were saying, some of those vehicles are going to be required. Like I don't see Pyro. I think that's why we haven't seen stuff like a Polaris come out. So like some of the bigger vehicles and stuff. Is because there's really no point without Pyro, but there's no point in us really having, like, we won't have the true flavor of what Pyro is supposed to be if they nerf it and like, oh okay, all quantum field is unlimited right now. You can just warp from standing to here like effortlessly. Then it's going to destroy a lot of what is the purpose of that testing, of that player interaction, of how players interact with that game environment. So I think that they know that, and they know that there's no point in bringing it out until it's ready. And I think that some of that that checklist includes a few ships, or at least a few archetypes of ships being available.
Yeah, I agree with that because there's.
I mean, I feel like there's. Is there any true? I guess there is like really no true option for, at least right now. Like if you were to run out, other than the Starfarer, there's no other fuel option. There's no repair option at all.
Well,
Yeah,
the
I think
repair.
they need things like the Banu for more like once Pyro's there, they need something like the Banu just because it's going to be a little bit safer for cargo. They're going to need things like the Apollo or something else, just where their purpose is more. But I have a feeling that one's going to be waiting a bit because there's just been no info on it for a while. But
Apollo
there's
just got pushed out of the dev pipeline. I thought they were supposed to be like working on it right now, but they pushed it out.
yeah, that's what I had seen. So I'm hoping they can have a lot of these little, I guess, where it just gives the game a little bit more life as far as Pyro. Because right now they wouldn't be as useful in Stanton. But once Pyro's brought in, I think a lot of these really like non-combat ships will have more roles for that, just because you're going to need them to supply yourself.
Yeah, I think it's hard playing a star. Like if you just wanted to be like a fuel rat kind of a thing, like a Elite Dangerous esque fuel rat. Yeah, that'd be a hard profession right now because nobody, even
Yeah,
if you run out in a
Nobody ever
era,
runs out of fuel
yeah,
on
yeah.
the
you
map.
don't
You
need
just
it.
fly back to your closest area and refuel.
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal.
I've only used the Starfare for the purpose of just wanting to use it. Like someone else was nearby, had it, and I was like, well, let's check it out. But other than that, I've never really needed it in Stanton.
Yeah, I think when it first dropped, I saw somebody like advertise that they were doing it like outside of Port Hollister. So I literally like warped over there just to do it. Just to be like, hey, I used a little bit of gas to get here. Like, let me refill real quick. Just kind of test it out, feel out, what it felt like. But I mean, I feel like there's some players that absolutely 110% are just waiting for that experience. That's what they want. They don't get like excited from PvP. Like we have a couple people in our org that Incarnate is one of those players. Like he doesn't like driving, he doesn't like flying. But he loves being a gunner. He loves the idea of doing like the FPS medic gameplay, the
Yep.
relay repair play. Like he loves being that team support. Like I'm the glue that keeps it going kind of
Yep.
role.
And I think there's quite a few people like that. In fact, I got some friends. The reason why they don't really play is just because the roles that they want to do, and the reason why they're into the game is just really isn't viable for them yet.
Absolutely.
Taking that and going into piracy like we're supposed to, or this org is like based around like, being a pirate, but you don't want to be a pirate and like go out and ruin somebody's day just because you want to get pirate gameplay. Like you gotta be creative.
Yeah, being a pirate, you definitely have to be creative. Otherwise, you end up just griefing.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes people don't want to pay. I mean, I think that
It does happen.
a lot
And
of gameplay loop. I mean, I feel like if anyone knows about being kind of ostracized as a gameplay loop, I feel like it's definitely probably us.
yeah,
But I feel like the support characters, like they have even less than we have. I feel like we have more in like 3.14, but we could like bust open doors easily and a lot of that kind of stuff. But we were boarding more people at Bezdek during unlimited layer night trading than I've pirated in the last like 3 patches. I probably pirated just 3.14 more people, or at least more people that paid rather.
yeah, it's just been more of an option as a pirate to try and enjoy the gameplay.
Like
What-
for instance, here's a good
Even though it's still
example.
limited.
Me and John Side, we were on a server where there was a support player trying to offer refuel services. And like he's trying to get his gameplay loop of being that support player, and we're trying to get our gameplay loop of being a pirate. So we kind of mixed them together without consent, but it turned out to be a really cool haul and a really cool gameplay experience, even for the person getting pirated, where we were like, yeah, we're out of fuel. In the middle of nowhere, he came over with his big ass Starfare, which he didn't know he didn't have to fill up all the freaking pods with Quantanium fuel, but he did.
Ooh.
Kind of felt bad. But he came over, I was hiding underneath the ship. Johnson didn't move. He docked onto the because we were in this constellation. We went up to there's like a bridge in the back.
Yeah.
Boarded him, took him out, held him at ransom, and like we would have been able to like ruin his day by blowing up his ship, but instead we recovered him. We were able to revive him. We held negotiations. We came to a settled agreement. Like, we only want this much money, and we'll let you go. That's how you got to get kind of fortunate because the game loops aren't like expanded right now. That's the kind of creativity that you need to make some of these gameplay styles fun for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. So
Where,
that way you're not just showing up, give me the money, or just you're making more of an experience out of it. For yourself, and then two, even for the person that's getting boarded. Like, it may not be the best experience, but at the same time, it's
you learn
still
something.
more of the game and what everybody's expecting it to become. So it's I do appreciate the piracy.
Yeah, he definitely got some lessons out of that experience. Like, one, it's not always beneficial to kill yourself out once you get injured or hurt, or sometimes you just gotta play it out and let, even if you want to consider it role playing, like, let the role play finish its course. Two, don't fill up 10 tanks of Quantanium to go refuel a constellation.
Hey, don't tell them that. I want to find that star.
Like, unnecessary. Bringing unnecessary equipment is a good way to, for sure, lose said equipment. And three, not all people are bad. Like, he definitely learned, like, because at one point he was like, "Well, how do I know you're not going to blow us out? One after I give you the money." And we're just like, "You're just gonna have to trust us that we're not that kind of player." So he definitely had some faith restored in the pirate community version of players.
Yeah, which is good. Like, that's why I think whenever you're doing piracy, you need to be doing it kind of more properly, the way that just it functions well with the game. So that way it's not just viewed as griefing, because it kind of gives it a bad name, really. And
You also make it harder for other pirates to enjoy that gameplay. Like, what?
yeah,
I'm not going to be able to hold a guy at ransom if he's just going to backspace. You know what I mean?
yep.
Yeah, I think it makes it a lot harder for people to actually try to do that. And I think that's why a lot of people just blow up the miners as soon as they see them, like, kind of just flying off in one particular direction. You'll notice, like, a lot of people will just start shooting them because they're, all right, well, if you're about to log off, then well.
Yeah. Which I don't know if is maybe always the right attitude on the piracy side, just because it's just the way the game's set up right now. But as long as you give people, I think, a chance, or you let them know you're there, you're not just flying in just before they even get a chance to talk, killing them off, and then trying to take the stuff. Just because, and depending on the situation, of course, there are some situations where it kind of works out that way. But as long as it's, in my opinion, you're trying to engage with them in the way the game's expected. I feel like it goes normally pretty well. Sometimes it doesn't.
I'm
But
not saying to announce yourself either. Like, you don't have to announce everything that you're going to do. Like,
oh,
haha,
no.
I'm going to go into the area of Lyria and I'm going to be looking for moles and prospectors. Like, no, like,
Yeah, don't be
No,
doing that.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
that
you're just giving yourself away.
None of those people ever played Eve. Like, it's just not the way it's ever. Even if they said that's the way it had to work, people still wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you go into the area, you scan a ship, you see if it has anything you want. If it does, you engage it. You try and disable it. You got distortions, you got EMPs. There's
Yep.
multiple ways you can take down a ship without blowing it up. You don't have to blow it up. You could
Yep.
snare it, block it from quantum jumping. Like, there's things you can do. And then the person's eventually gonna, you don't have to even say anything. The person is eventually gonna get the message like, "Hey, I can't evade the situation. I can try and fight the situation." And then you just shut them down. So now you can't use his guns. Now you really can't fight the situation. The only option I have is to pay.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think a big part of talking about what is wrong with the state of PvP right now in the game is it's almost impossible to not mention combat logging. I know that, like, the famous meme that's now kind of gone viral, the developer saying combat logging is like a bastard's move, which, to be honest, whether you want the gameplay loop or not, like you said, Spectre, like, finish the gameplay loop, like that is the
Yes.
game. Like, you're playing a sandbox MMO where you should have had an escort. Like that's how you stop piracy.
Exactly.
You don't complain to the developer. You hire an escort, and now you're creating a job inside of the verse.
Yeah, because that's kind of what's expected too. I mean, whenever I have gone mining before, which is very few times, just not the biggest fan of it. We always had an escort, and that's just because you don't want to get hit by pirates. Pay someone to be an escort.
Or somebody in the
So
area that you can call on,
yeah, so if you have
instantaneously.
pirates coming after you, and you know they're coming, and you know what's going on, and you're just trying to avoid it, and logging out and just doing that, that's the coward's way.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's going to lead a lot into like org chess. So you're going to have like mining orgs, the only thing they're really focusing on is mining. And then you're going to have like security forces org. And the mining org and the security forces org are going to be teaming up against like a pirate org. So you're going to have all these different orgs doing different things and offering different services, and they're going to be colliding with each other. So when you go into an area, you're going to get a mining org and a security force org and a cargo org to take the miners' goods and try and transport it. Like, it's going to be a live logistical system.
Yeah, and back to even just the logging part, like one of the things I think that causes an issue for is it basically just validates the pirates to want to blow you up before you even log. So it ends up creating that almost look of like you're being griefed just because they've dealt with so many people logging before they could do their part of the play. And so I think it just creates frustration in and of itself whenever you do the logging like that. So they need to have protection, just play out the game, do the role play when it happens, and don't do the logging, because it just next time some guy's in an eclipse or something or whatever, and he's been annoyed by a bunch of people logging, he's just gonna fire his size 9 and take you out. So I feel like it's playing it correctly on both sides does matter. Not just putting all the blame on the pirate.
A true piracy endeavor is like 30 minutes to an hour long.
And you don't get much for it right now.
So like putting a 10-minute your person's going to be on the server for 10 minutes when you log out isn't really going to be like the answer. They got to come up with something that keeps whatever the player's like physicalized appearance there until like somebody leaves the area or something like that.
Baby boy, I just need their cargo grid to be physicalized. Like, as long as the cargo is there, like, okay, fine, you logged off. Like, as long as it says like, if it tells me like, hey, player's out of this ship. Okay, well now we're gonna blow it up. Like when you log back in, it's gonna let you know, hey, you died, your ship blew up, you're respawning at Everest Harbor or wherever. Like that was your because that's what's gonna happen is that when they make it that the cargo is permanent, it's on grid. When you do like blow up a ship, that same amount. Like if he has $1 million worth of Laranite, maybe you don't get $1 million, but you're getting 500,000 worth of Laranite instead of right now. If you blew up a Caterpillar worth of Laranite, you're still gonna get like the same 20 boxes.
Yep.
Once they really have that physicalized, and we have the option of, okay, if you don't want to play the game, then we will just blow you up, and we get to make the money. Well, now the traders have really no reason, to even try to combat log. It makes way more sense to try to negotiate, even if you're just social engineering. Let's say I'd rather somebody try to tell me that they're going to pay me, and they're still trying to fly away while they're waiting for their friends to come and provide backup or come and save the day.
That's gonna be
even if they're coming up
try to try to screw me back over. Like have your security force bros show up and try to stop us. Like I would much rather let you go and then now focus on the PvP with those 5 guys.
Yeah, because it's at the end of the day for the pirate side, like people that really enjoy it's just about the experience. So if you go ahead and do that, and like all of a sudden we have a battle, well, thanks for bringing the fun,
That's gonna be a really cool experience. Just sitting there trying, like, they physicalize the Laranite cargo into crates, and you gotta spend the next 30 minutes unloading this Caterpillar's crates into like your own transport ships in the middle of that because he had pressed like a emergency beacon button or something. Now all these freaking fighter ships and stuff are popping out of the sky, and you got to worry about defending the cargo you just stole.
And I feel like CIG is pushing that direction. I feel like with the we talked about it a little bit earlier, like the combat assistance beacons and stuff. Like you can tell that they're going that direction of like, yeah, we want emergent situations. So when you do get pirated, like let's say, you're playing in the middle of the night, it's a weird night, none of your org is on, none of your friends are online because you're playing at like 2:00 in the morning your time or like 4 a.m. your time. They want the ability that you can throw out a beacon and be like, "Hey, my cargo is worth $1 million. I'll pay 100,000 to anybody who comes and deals with this right now." And there will be a player that wants to kill the pirates just as bad as the pirates want to kill like the space cops.
Yeah.
Dude, think about the griefing right now. Like, what was it yesterday? I was playing. It was right after you got off, Kush. Or there, somebody was like, "Oh, there's a griefer blowing up ships at Everest Harbor and not allowing anybody to land." Well, guess what? I went because I happened to be in Eclipse at the time. I went to Everest Harbor. There was like 30 ships in the sky trying to fight this guy. They will come out of the woodwork to get some kind of action.
Yeah,
there's
people will.
PvPers on the on the light side of the forces. There's the dark side, if you would.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of people that are just as interested in taking out the pirates as the pirates are doing the pirates.
I think it would be definitely interesting considering most of us here, even though like the three of us definitely have different interests in the gameplay loop of piracy. The fact that we all three are in a piracy org, I think it would be interesting. Maybe like in a future episode, maybe the next episode, we have somebody come on that's kind of on the other side of that fence, like more on the mining side of the fence. And we hear it like from their perspective, because I would be interested in having like a real conversation with a mining centric player about like, why does it make sense to combat lock? Like, it's just like, I guess right now it makes sense because you still have your cargo, there's crash recovery and stuff like that. But like, once that's gone, like, is that still something you're gonna do? Like, is it gonna be a spiteful thing, or are you gonna just start like playing the game for what it's supposed to be played? Like, because honestly, if you said, "Hey, you told me 30,000 to extort me and tell me I can keep going along this trade route, or I pay 50K, and now not only can I go along this trade route, but I'm protected the rest of the day that if somebody else tries to mess with me, your piracy org will come and stop them from trying to exploit me." Like, now you're buying protection from the org. I mean, I think it's an interesting thing, or it would be an interesting thing rather, to hear about it from somebody else's point of view that isn't the same like gameplay loop as us.
Well, they won't even be able to do that in the future because once everything's kind of on that same plane, or they'll have the plane of existence and then they'll have all the servers matching that plane. It doesn't even matter if you try and jump to another server, you'll just end up right back where you were with the same people who are pirating you.
Well, yeah, but if they were to, like, for instance, like, let's just say we were all on one server right now, but they can still log off in their bed, and as soon as they log off, the ship's gone. Like, okay, I'm done with that account. Maybe I log on to my second account, or maybe I'm just done for the day. I log back tomorrow because the Laranite's worth that much. Like, there needs to be that repercussion of once you, like, if you log off while, and it's not hard to do, man. Like games have been doing this since like Diablo 2 and EverQuest days. Like, if character has aggro or has like combat, like any damage indicators or any damage matches being like hit in the last minute and a half, 2 minutes, like, don't like keep the shit present. And I don't mean to undersell it by saying that it's like super easy to do, but to say that it's like impossible or innovative to do is also like, that's a stretch. Like, it's going to be something that they have. I know that they're working on that. Like, they had a whole Inside Star Citizen segment talking about how they're trying to find a solution to stop combat logging because it does kill the exact kind of gameplay that they designed the game for.
Well, here, let me ask you, like, do you think it'd be beneficial for, like, even if you're logged off, like, and let's say you don't play all week, if you logged off in the bed of your ship, should your ship still remain in existence for the entire week that you're not on?
I think that the plan for that is to happen with some ships, like ships that can't dock. Like a Kraken, for instance. I don't think a Kraken should just be able to disappear out of space.
I think Krakens and Javelins they talked about, those would be persistent.
Yeah, I think like big stuff like that, like have NPCs run it. Like maybe you like if you've ever played Eve, there's like player citadels that are player owned, and there's different hours of when that station goes into like what's called like a repair mode almost, or like a maintenance hour, if you would, right? And you can change when that timeline is, but there will be people that know that timeline and specifically show up right after it to try to like pretty much steal it from the people that own it. I think that we're going to see something kind of like that. But I think that, being in the game, just persistently sitting there is definitely not the solution. But I think that maybe it's one of those things that if you didn't park your ship, let's say you just like you found some dope cave on a planet and you like landed underneath this like enclave. I think your ship should probably be sitting there. And maybe you're inside of it. Maybe I can't walk inside.
I mean, yeah,
but the ship should sit there. But if you
you're
dock
in your Avenger Titan,
go away.
You're in your Avenger Titan and you decide to call it for the night, like, I think your ship should be on. Like, you leave it on the side of a moon or an asteroid or even just in the middle of space. and your player logs off in the bed and goes to sleep, I think the ship should stay there.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you went out to the bar
I
with your
agree.
friends, but you had too many drinks and you left your car downtown, and you had to come back the next morning, like your car might get stolen, but like it was, you left it there because it was safe to do that to drive home. I don't think that's the best analogy. 'Cause I'm not telling like people at home not to like to drink and drive, but like, obviously there
Car's
has to
still
be
there when you wake up in the morning.
yeah, like the car's still there. So I think that like it's to be realistic, the ship should stay. I
Yeah,
think
and
there are
I
certain
think it
experiences
creates
where you don't.
I think it creates more gameplay just in the exploration side too, just for all the people that maybe they're out there in an Odyssey and they're far away, right? And they're wanting to log, but they take their Pisces out or something else that's coming along with it. And they just go down to a planet and they're kind of setting up like a little site for exploring there or whatever their case is. I think it would be cooler on for the future of the game as well that you stay in that ship, so that way when you get back on, you know where you are, you know where you're supposed to be starting, and then if you aren't, something happened. And
Yeah.
so it kind of just gives you more intel about what you were doing even while you were off, which I think would be appreciated, especially on
And then
exploration.
it makes it your responsibility as a player to make sure you're logging off somewhere
Like so we're
Safe.
safe.
relatively safe.
Yep.
And that also comes to like, there will be a player that's like, hey, you just park in my parking lot. Like I have a land plan, park in my parking lot on Hurston, like extended car stay, like we have a
Yeah.
player 24
Yeah,
hours. Who knows where there's tons of gameplay that can come around just having players have their ships or their assets in the game, permanently, if you would.
Yeah.
and
But
even with the land claims, it's the same ordeal. Like your base, it's
can't
not going
move
to
that.
disappear because you logged off.
Yeah, I hope it's like
Exactly.
Ark style. I hope it's like Ark where like you log in and you're just like, oh shit, like somebody completely devastated like my little tribe.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
what I was actually thinking of was Ark. It'd be really cool to all of a sudden you wake up and it's like, oh, we had a little, or maybe it was even the environment. Maybe it's NPCs, or if there's
NPCs can't
space
mess with
creatures,
it.
things like that, creatures on the planets, that they could do damage to your stuff as well. Like that would be cool to see, just because then it makes you have to think about where are you staying, like not just other players, but the environment killing you too.
Completely off topic, but so like, well, on topic, but not related. Arma had a system. I don't know if you ever played Arma or
A
Exile.
little bit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you could register like your I think it was through Discord, but you could register somehow your phone to the server. So like if your base was being attacked, you would get like a notification on your phone.
Oh, that's cool.
That same kind of thing would happen on I mean it wouldn't be a live notification on your phone. I think that's awesome. Like you could definitely see Star Citizen doing something more like up to date like that. But even something like what Ark had, where it was like just a log of like, now I know who I need to go and like mess with today. Like now I know who I'm
Yep.
going to plan. But the whole thing I see is like people like us who have been like backing the game for years. We've been playing the game for years. We have tons of ships. When the game comes out, maybe we're not like one of the biggest orgs, but we're going to be a well organized and well experienced org, right?
Yep.
I envision a world where like, to us, maybe an Avenger Titan like parked under like a little cave, like is it really worth it? So we're like focused on, hey, how do we go like take down this Orion? Like when is this org taking their Orion fleet out again? And how do we make
Yep.
sure that we're on the other side of that gate waiting?
Or if they're
Versus
like, go ahead.
as I said, like versus like I'd love to see like a group of like new players like all flying like Pisces and Avenger Titans, like little Jawas in Star Wars. Like they're just like
Yeah.
scavenging across the top of a planet looking for guys who logged out in their ship that didn't know better, so they could salvage the whole thing and take it and log into traps. I would love that type of gameplay.
That reminds me of the Obi-Wan TV show. It was like he took like a component of his ship and then tried to sell it back to him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would do it. I would love it. I would love it.
And I think it'd also be really cool, like in the future of the gameplay, especially with planetary side and things being persistent, staying there. Where maybe it's an org that they're really just focused on mining. They got like a mining outpost, and then you could go in there with your pirate org, or maybe your mercenaries that got paid by another org to go do this too, right? And you could go in there, your ground vehicles, and just kind of whatever it is that you were just after, or paid to do, or whatever else. You could go in there with your ground vehicles, everything, and like try and take it over and basically just hold hostage their mining situation, which I think would be really cool, because then it would introduce more planetary side attacks and everything else. But obviously, this is probably a ways out.
Yeah, I think there's a whole element to this. I was watching the video like the Reclaimer and the Vulture doing the salvage gameplay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, okay, so that their thing, it like you fire the lasers at the mesh, it starts hitting the outside of the ship. As you reach a certain percentage, the box, is formed and it drops, and then somebody in your cargo hold has to then grab that and then move that box out of the way so you can keep storing it. I'm like, there's going to be situations where it will probably be just as valuable to sit there and watch, after a PvP event. No, I'm not in the PvP event. And no, I'm not going to go in right after the PvP event's over. I'm going to wait till the vultures and reclaimers sit there for the next 45 minutes, clean up everything, and then I'm going to go exploit the salvage guys. And like I'm gonna like so there's so many different ways where I think there's going to be a lot of gameplay coming. It's just going to be about what we see, relatively soon. I like the ideas that we've thrown out here today in terms of like some of the stuff that they could do. I think that a lot of the stuff that they've done in the last year, some of the changes that they've brought in were stuff that I definitely would have never seen coming, but they've added a lot of quality of life stuff. I hope that
like the racing.
Yeah, I think like the racing, like I mean, dude, even like the ATC, like the contact ATC button, like little things like that are things that like there needs to be the guy who wants to be immersive and like press, F1 and then reach out to the tower and go through all the steps will do it. He'll still do the immersive way, but there needs to be a more mainstream way that like players can jump in and just start playing. And I think that we've seen a lot of that, and now I hope in the next year we really see a lot of like refinement, like a lot of refinement of what's already there. Instead of adding new stuff, instead of showing me new like concept ships, like get some of those concepts out of the pipeline, at least the ones that make sense. Get Pyro out, like I think we're at a really interesting tipping point right now.
Once Pyro's out, you're gonna see like things grow exponentially. Because like Stanton was made with a lot of older tech, and they refined a lot of the tech that it took to make Stanton. And then they used that tech to make Pyro, and now they're refining the tech that was used to make Pyro. And once Pyro comes out, you're gonna be like, okay, well, next year here comes 5-star systems. You know what I mean? Because it's all procedurally generated now.
Yeah. And even on that, like there's apparently they've been working a lot of the stuff they've been doing from Pyro and just that they've learned, they're going to be taking, because I saw they're going to be apparently updating Lorville just from the stuff they changed since that was one of their first spots.
I think,
Yeah,
would they say Lorville hasn't been updated in 10 years or something like that? Or like a good amount of years, Lorville's like one of the original cities that hasn't been touched.
Yeah. It's an older one that needs some updates.
I think they showed a few passes of that. Like I think it was like a couple Inside Star Citizens ago.
Yeah.
They showed like the new like skyline, some of the new like building tech, like sand and stuff, like going off of the tops of buildings, like blowing off of cranes and stuff like that.
Yeah, they sent an email out about it too. It was pretty.
Yeah, I'm all for it, man. I really like.
Me too.
I've always liked Lorville. There's something about Lorville that has like a very like an earth. Like Hurston definitely has the most earth feel to me, obviously. Other than like Microtech. But Lorville as a city just feels so much more realistic than like New Babbage.
It does feel it's got a little bit of that dystopian vibe to it too, which is kind of makes it feel, I guess, relate like almost because you just read about it in so many movies or books, right?
Yeah.
And it is very Blade Runner-esque in some things, like because every time I fly in with the way they do all the smog and the dust everywhere, it just kind of reminds me of like Blade Runner 2042 when he's pulling up to the city where the abandoned area, and it just kind of gives me that vibe, which I really enjoyed. So that's why I like flying into Lorville, but I also like the atmosphere distance.
It was made to be like the example tech for ArcCorp.
Yeah.
Like,
good.
Yeah, it was they were making like ArcCorp, or they wanted to make the concept for ArcCorp, and they needed to test the tech that was needed to make ArcCorp, so they made it in Lorville. Like those buildings, when the polish pass comes for Lorville, none of those buildings are going to be the same.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I mean, honestly, I'm excited for all the Planet Tech. I'm really excited to see them improve that kind of stuff because I feel like those are the first experiences that new player. I remember, like, I still vividly remember the very first time I logged into the game. I picked Lorville, walking around. Like, I did look at all this stuff. I looked at the little food carts, and it didn't even matter that I can't interact with some of this stuff because it was like, to me, I don't know. There was just something about
just cool
it
that it was there.
very special. Yeah.
I spent hours flying around Microtech, New Babbage, before New Babbage even had a name.
Dude, I'll
Yeah.
be honest. I sometimes just log in for 30 minutes just to fly around and look at stuff because it's just so immersive. And I
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
have too many other games that are like that.
I showed you my video the other day of Captain Crush talking to you. I showed you that video of me like logging in and going just to the racetrack. You
Mhm.
know, between these two patches, I posted this on Reddit too, like the XGR guys in that racing community, like me
Yep.
finding like that kind of, I don't want to say a hidden gem because it's really not hidden. It's like front and center in the middle of like the Arena Commander like module, and then even in the game and on the community sense. But I've just never engaged in it, and I found like a new love for the game and just like going in and trying to race, do hard flying, try to get my speeds and my control up like above SCM
Yep.
and really like pushing what I'm able to do as a pilot. Like combat at a certain point, just blowing people up kind of gets repetitive. And XGR and this whole racing scene has literally given me like a whole reborn interest in like 317.2. Like
Yeah.
that's been a
I
hard patch to play, man. It's definitely been a hard patch to play
It
for me.
has been, but I will say I agree with you 100% on basically what you're talking about there is more or less like I came in and I wanted to do piracy and mercenary type gameplay because I like to blow stuff up. But at the same time, I found a lot of fun in the land vehicles. And so they, even though I may not have enjoyed 17.2 as much, I still had a lot of fun just sometimes getting in a Centurion or my little gray cat vehicles, any of them, and just driving around, sometimes doing the things I'm supposed to do or just checking out the planets because it was just I found it pretty fun. And then the fact that they're building some ground related racetracks and they've been doing more with that. Yeah, I enjoy that. Like those little things that you didn't expect that they've been working on. Sometimes definitely check them out because you'll just find renewed interest and just have fun.
I definitely want to say that I've loved like having us on the show today. I've loved this first episode. We are at like an hour right now, so I don't know if you guys want to keep going. If you guys want to wrap up, I feel like I feel like we're at a good point for our first episode.
Yeah, I feel like an
Um,
hour is probably good.
yeah. But I want to ask you guys this: if we could leave off on one thing, if you could see them talk about one thing in Citizen Con, both of you guys, what would that one thing be that you see covered?
For me, it's the Badu.
Bonnie Merchant, man, that's all you
Yeah.
care about is just BMM. You just want to see the BMM.
Dude, I want to see the BMM so bad. And to be completely truthful, a year ago I didn't even care about the thing. But learning more of what they're doing with it, knowing that it can go planet side, it'll be the biggest, have the most space out of any vehicle that goes planet side. As of now, they could change that in the future if they
Yeah.
decide to. But right now, that their plan is that'll be the biggest planet side vehicle for delivery, basically. And then it's also got the size 8. So for me, I don't see it as much because I'm not into delivery, but I want to use it more for something of ground missions and like deploying troops or things like that because all that space inside there I think would be really awesome, along with an A2 or a couple A2s above, keeping the ground troops under fire so that everybody can move in. That's why I'm really excited about it because I just saw new uses for it. This will be a really cool ship.
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah. All right, Spectre.
Me
What about you?
For me, it's not really like Pyro itself, but the idea of what you would do in Pyro. So obviously, if they're talking about Pyro, I'd like to see them expand on what you can do in terms of a pirate and how to you can make it profitable to be a pirate. Because I would love to see like there's certain things that pirates do in a lawless system. Like that's the whole idea of Pyro is it being lawless. So I'd like to see them expand on like what kind of stuff you'd be able to get into more in Pyro.
Yeah, I want to know if like our NPC is just gonna pull up and just like straight start blasting you. Like there's no like interaction. Like, am I gonna get extorted by? I'd love to get extorted by NPCs. Like NPCs ask me to send a UBC transfer.
Oh yeah, like
And we like
imagine
pull
if you go to Pyro and instead of having like that random ship that shows up to just like check if you've got any wrong cargo or whatever else when they scan you. Imagine if when you're on the Pyro side, it's like the opposite. Instead of the cops pulling up and checking on you, it's NPC
almost.
I
pirates and
feel
things
like
like that.
I feel like everybody's for like as soon like Pyro comes out, everybody's like, yeah, let's go to Pyro. As soon as they land in Pyro, all right, put your hands up, give me all your shit.
Right. I think for me, it would probably have to be some more diversity in missions. I'd really like to see like missions of all types. I think last year seeing the like 3 or 4 different ways to go about that same mission really gave me like almost like Breath of the Wild or like Splinter Cell vibes, where there was like a few different ways to do that same thing in the game, but depending on how you did it, it maybe did something else. Right? Even Mass Effect is like one of the experts of that. Like that's more of like decision tree based. These are more like action based and like how you went to the mission.
Yep.
But I think that seeing more diversity like that for everything from like capture to kill to even like package missions. Like, hey, you can stop over here and get this little thing that like is this NPC's favorite flower from Hurston, but it only grows at this lake. But if you get it and give that to him at the same time, maybe you get more favor, more rep, like or something. Just
basically
creating extra gameplay loops to kind of keep. That's what will keep players active in between patches.
Yeah, because then all of a sudden it adds another 30 minutes of work, but you're doing it to buy goodwill with this NPC, maybe for better missions or more rep or whatever it is that you get from it. Because they could do a lot there and change things there. But yeah, that'd be really cool to see something where there's more, basically like you said, a Mass Effect style. Not necessarily where it's well, maybe even there is a chat box with the NPCs. Like maybe there's a dialogue option in the future where you're trying to earn their trust through dialogue. Because that would be cool. Like those Mass Effect is actually a game that I really, really enjoy just because of that. Every time you want to go and play it, you don't always necessarily have to have the same ending, which is appreciative.
Yeah, I like that. I think the first game I remember seeing that with was like Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, like where there's all the different versions and stuff of the game to play through. And I remember just thinking like, oh, this is amazing. I get like I could play this game 5-6 different times and literally have different playthroughs every single time. But I think that would be it for me. I think all of the stuff that we've talked about today, for the most part, has been stuff that I think we've all kind of agreed with. Like it's stuff that we really want to see in the game. We want to see from the truly pyro focused CitizenCon that we have coming up. I think that next week we're going to have a really fun episode, being able to go back through those panels and talk about what we saw, what we learned, and most importantly, what CIOG showcased.
Heck yeah, I think it'll be a lot of fun to see what they're going to be showing. 8 hours of good content, and we'll be stuck there every second.
Yeah, I'm gonna have some popcorn ready. I might even do like a live stream on Twitch where I watch it with people.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I'm very ready for it.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me today on episode 1 of the Stanton News Network. We're going to put this out on Apple Music, Spotify. Tell your friends, tell your neighbor, tell your coworker, tell them how much money you've spent on chips. Definitely tell your dog. Your dog already likes this. But we will see you guys next week and look forward to following up with you guys on what went on with CitizenCon. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
Later.